Listen, Joe, I'm very excited to have you on and a little bit about pedals. I'm I'm fascinated with independent build. Like people who get very creative and just do it for the love of doing it. And I'd like to know, first of all, what types of pedals you have, and then what types of pedals are like your passion projects.
Oh, good question. Well, we specialize in analog pedals exclusively, and mostly in the kind of boost, overdrive, distortion sort of domain. And our main focus has kind of been on recreating a lot of analog solid state representations of classic amps, like in the Dumble category has kind of been something we've been really successful with in replicating kind of their overdrive style circuits and pedal based formats, and also some of their kind of clean, more EQ based sort of pedals where you could sort of take those and use them into your Fender amp or whatever clean amp and kind of impart some more of the clean channel sounds of a Dumble
Okay.
style amplifier. And then another really popular pedal for us is our Vertex Boost, which is just a clean boost and it doesn't really do anything except add more volume. But it has this kind of cool feature that at the time I wouldn't say is like the most innovative sort of idea, but just nobody was doing it, which is connecting an expression pedal and allowing that to act as the volume pedal and also control the boost at the same time. So those have all been really successful products for us. And then kind of more recently, we've gotten more into accessories like buffers, pedal boards, and kind of some of the things that would insulate, all the pedals and kind of create a framework that people can use that is going to have sort of all the professional kind of key things on there as far as sort of optimizing space and having the right signal conditioning and all that stuff. And so we offer a lot of products that are around that sort of stuff as well, with the pedal boards and some of the accessories thereof.
Uh, I mean, coming from the perspective of a musician, which I am almost positive you are without having to ask a question, are you coming at it from more of an amp driven perspective of the sound, or as a player, like the guitar, bass, keyboard, whatever is going through the pedal?
When I'm coming at it, I'm looking at it mostly from the perspective of how do we maintain the closest representation of the original thing that we're trying to reproduce in sort of this dissimilar format. And then maybe there are some elements of me being a guitar player that come into it sort of in the testing phase to kind of see that it actually represents that adequately. But
Yeah.
at least in the initial sort of building of the product or prototyping of the product, the main goal is how well does it represent the thing that we're going after. And if it's a specific amp, then we're using that amp. And there's a lot of companies that make Dumble sounding devices that have never had a Dumble. And that doesn't mean that they can't do a great job or that they wouldn't actually be accurate. But for us, the best sort of North Star to kind of set our compasses toward is having the real deal and using that as sort of the baseline for where the mark we're going.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. Are you very much into the electronic, like are you, is that something that fascinates you, and if it is, why?
The electronic side, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is fascinating. I think the most fascinating part of all this is that in our pedal world, for the most part, there's obviously exceptions, is that the technology really hasn't advanced that much. Like the demands that guitar players have is primarily for technology that didn't go beyond the 1980s for the most part. And so in terms of the types of op amps that we like, that guitar players ordinarily necessarily gravitate towards, and the type of components that they like or that are sought after. These are all things that have been in existence for 30 or 40 years or more, and the demands are for those sorts of things, those sorts of sounds, those combinations of components to produce a certain sound. And so in some ways the demand for advancement and new technology in our field is sort of somewhat thwarted by the fact that guitar players are actually at heart pretty traditional, and they kind of like to draw from established sounds and things like that. And so that's not a problem as a manufacturer, but it sort of means that the level of maybe sophistication or sort of understanding of electronics means that somebody who's, you know, not that smart like me can like figure this stuff out, and it doesn't have to, it's not that complicated, and a lot of people can do it. And this is why I think you see there being so many people that have gravitated or have just kind of been an influx of new pedal manufacturers in the last 10 or 15 years, is because the barrier for entry is kind of low. You know, at least to get started. Obviously, there's a lot more to run the business than building the pedals, but
Yeah.
there are not as many skills as I think as it looks like from an outsider's perspective.
Now, I have a thing about tattoos, right? So when I look at it, I go not Pinterest, but I'll like grab different picture, a combination of all this, but this is the theme I'm going for. And I go to my text and I say, can you locate this? And I kind of have something, maybe not from outside, but something that you think of that maybe if I come these two different elements, I'll get a new sound, and maybe somebody might be interested in that. Give me an example of that.
Well, I think that those sort of examples are sort of everywhere, in that we're kind of all recycling sort of these ways of producing certain sounds. And in our industry, in the analog domain in particular, there aren't that many ways to create delay or to create distortion or overdrive. They're kind of like finite ways to do that. And really the only thing we can do is sort of try to combine things in maybe different fashions in hopes that it produces something different. And maybe the different individual components of that are very much utilized and have been used for a long time. I think our limitations comparatively to, like I say, a tattoo artist is that, you know, a tattoo artist, I'm sure that there are some things that they get called to do that have been similar to what tattoo artists have been asked to do for decades. And I'm sure that there's some other guys that, you know, are willing to go off and do experimental stuff and be really interesting and have at least some opportunity to be rewarded for that. I would say we're less rewarded in our industry for being too far deviated from the norm. But to kind of answer your question, you know, we've had some devices where we've taken like a pedal that was formerly really popular. One example is our steel string pedal that's kind of emulating the steel string singer sound of a Dumble, which is just like a clean, kind of huge, big, kind of clean tone on steroids Dumble, and then adding in like a secondary Dumble EQ channel, so you have the ability to either toggle between these two different EQs that would have been consistent with the Dumble, or actually combine the EQs and cascade them into each other and use this as a sort of different way of doing things. And you know, that was called the Steel String Supreme, and that was also like a hugely popular pedal for us because people could utilize kind of one set of EQs from a Dumble that wasn't the same as what you'd ordinarily find on a steel string pedal, or you could use the one that's on the steel string pedal, or you could use them together, and you had all these options to control how fat the note was, how much of the clean signal was blended in with the affected signal. You could have separate output and input control, so you could kind of overdrive them into each other if you wanted, which got some sounds that you would have never got from a Dumble. And I don't know that necessarily many people used it that way, but it did have that capability nonetheless. And that was kind of an interesting thing that maybe produced a sound that was different than people could got within either one of those individually, or would have got with those original amps.
Awesome. If somebody were to contact you, where are you located? What's your
Yeah, so our company is based in Los Angeles, and California, and that's where we manufacture everything out of. And people can find us like at the typical places: the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, and then our website vertexeffects.com has a contact page that people can reach out directly if they have questions about our products or things of that nature. We don't sell anything direct, so you can't buy anything from our website, but it has a list of all of our carrying dealers and stuff like that, and then they can
oh, nice.
Sweetwater and a myriad of other places, Reverb, Amazon, all those places.
We get to travel to places like Sweetwater and kind of talk about your stuff.
Yeah, it's actually a kind of a prerequisite of being one of the vendors that sells there, is that you go there periodically to do trainings and presentations to their staff about how to understand your products best. And
that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, they're really they're a pretty tight operation. Even when you do those presentations, you have to do like a dress rehearsal, and they give you sort of like a audio video team that you rehearse with to make sure that you've got your act together, and they grade you. They get like a report card at the end of your presentation to tell you whether you did a good job or not, and how prepared you were. And so these are all sort of they take it really seriously. They want you to do a good job, and they want you to be prepared.
That's really awesome. That's really, really cool. Do you have anything you can show the viewers, like next to you, or just like hold up, kind of like you would say?
We can get into some of this stuff at some point. I have some prototypes that I've been working on right now that are at my desk, because normally in my home office, this is the type of stuff that I'm working on, are these sorts of prototypes and figuring out what's working and what's not, and what I want to change. And usually you can see if you're watching this as opposed to listening to it, it's purple. It's a purple PCB. We always do purple for all of our prototypes so that we know that it is a prototype and it doesn't actually get installed into an enclosure upon the time that it's ready to be manufactured. This is a device that I've been working on. This is kind of one part of it. There's another part that I don't have here with me to show, but this is kind of something that we're working on that sort of is looking toward the future. And one of the big things that we notice in our industry is that the trend of amplifier simulations are kind of where everybody's going, and that's not really our area of expertise as far as engineering or even understanding of that world or that technology, as far as how to design it. But one thing we are really good at is the analog side of things, and we're in the kind of the last stages of building just a really simple tube preamp that is stereo in, stereo out, and via TRS, and can be used to basically just create a tube stage going into any of the modeling devices. And one thing that we've noticed is that the modeling devices are really great at, especially in playback, if you listen to one that's being used to record a song and you're listening to it on your DAW or whatever you've got, that they can sound pretty convincing. But one thing that guitar players talk about a lot is that the feel is really not there, and that they can't emulate sort of the percussiveness of the tube or the sag of the tube or some of these other things. And so we want to provide that aspect of the amplifier, which we can create at a reasonable amount of voltage and current that can make it workable on a pedal board. And somebody can have that feel of having a 12AX7 tube stage in front of their modeling device, and they can get some of that feel back that makes it a little bit more palatable as they're using it in stage or in studio or wherever. So that's kind of some stuff that we're working on for the future, is to kind of address that. And almost that is sort of a selfish thing, because I have a quad cortex and I have some of these other devices that I do use in certain occasions, but I always feel like that's a deficit for me too. Like if only it had like a little bit more feel, it would it would make it even more pleasurable to play. And it's not that it's going to replace my tube amps, but it's going to make it a lot closer and sort of bridging that gap and that divide of some of the things that I miss when I don't have my real amp.
Yeah. Is it kind of like it's like a piece of art that is never finished, and it seems like that's the thing you're trying to say, that little piece there.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy of how a lot of this stuff is, and luckily, we have the space in our industry to kind of create a version 2 or a version 3, and we can get consumer feedback, and we can modify the original circuit to improve it once we see that people are finding holes in the product there, and ultimately your customers will always find it. And in some ways, some people find that daunting. They don't like the idea of not having any sort of gaps in the product. But I think invariably, you're limited when you go to manufacture something. You can test it all you want, but you're still sort of only hearing from a fairly select group of voices, and maybe a specific type of application that's not representative of the whole industry. So I always look forward. I always anticipate that we're going to have to do a version 2 of whatever it is, and I'm just always kind of curious, like, what is it going to be? I'm sort of excited, like, is it going to be it was too compressed, or it needs more gain, or whatever it is? All these are fixable problems. It's just a matter of which way it's going to take you based on what you hear from your customers.
Being in LA, I mean, you have LA is really a melting pot of music genres. So, I mean, you can find anything there. But one specifically on my other channel is, and I can only imagine how many inquiries they had about a reverb unit, and that might not be something you do, but how many inquiries do you for that?
For how many inquiries do I get for? Can you just repeat that last part of the question?
Oh, I like people be interested in Vertex pedals would the surf scene.
Oh, I don't know that we get much overlap, because we don't make any reverbs or any sort of space echo stuff. I don't know. I guess the only thing that I could think of that may even be a possibility is like maybe the boost, but even that, like, most of the surf guys, they're super clean, and they seem to do kind of everything from the amp for the most part, unless it's the reverb. And so I can't really see where they would benefit, as much as I'd like to say, like, I'd love to be on some more surf rigs. I don't know that I have much to offer. I don't know, maybe a buffer, but again, like, some of the signal paths on that stuff, it's pretty abbreviated, right? Like, it's not like you guys are running 10 or 20 pedals before the amp.
Right. What is your, when you got into this, what was your dream? What is your end goal, where you'd be like, now I'm satisfied, I've met my goal, and now I have to figure out something else to do? Like, when you're my age at 50 and you've kind of come to the part where, like, I can't go any further, like, now I have to figure something else to do. Like, what is your end goal?
Well, it changes all the time, and I wouldn't say that it's been the same thing. Right now, our main focus is in actually producing fewer pedals every year, and really focusing on creating more depth instead of breadth. And I think that they're just different ideologies based on the companies that are there. Like, some companies are releasing stuff every 6 to 8 weeks, and they have this really aggressive release schedule, and they're manufacturing all the time, and I can't speak to the reasons for that. My sense is that they've got a lot of employees, they've got a lot of people that they're accountable for, and they've got a lot of machinery and equipment, and the best way to make that pay for itself is to continue to produce. And they know that some of the stuff that comes out is not going to be a hit, but they have a good built-in dealership network, and they know that there's going to be certain minimum orders for everything that comes out. And if it's not a hit, then it's easy for them to sort of, blow it out, recoup all the profits that they can from it, and then start on a new project. And that's kind of like the sales arc. And for us, it's a little bit different. Like I don't want to make a product that I have to retire from our lineup. I really want to have everything have a lot of investment in it from us, and make sure that the stuff that we're putting out, we know that it's vetted, we believe in it, and we know that it's going to be effective. And one of the companies that I look at that I think has been really good at doing this, and that has been around a really long time as a consequence, is Exotic. Exotic doesn't put out a ton of effects, but what they do put out, they really push it. They really make sure that they find audiences for the products, and that they support it over a long period of time. And you don't often see pending that there isn't some sort of component that they can't get anymore to make that product. Most of their stuff is relatively the same lineup that they've had for 15 years or more. And I think that that's really impressive. And in some cases, like, we've had to discontinue stuff that just didn't work, wasn't viable in the marketplace. And we've had a few of those. And we've had other stuff that's been around for almost 15 years. And so to me, like, those are the type of products that we want to make. And it's not just to maintain a release schedule. And luckily we have some of those freedoms, because we've got this thing going on YouTube, which has been really effective for us. And we've got some great partners and dealers that work with us that understand our product, and that we make some stuff that there just isn't an equivalency for, and so that kind of helps us differentiate.
So you have a YouTube channel?
We do.
Well, you have to send me the link. I have to be a subscriber now.
Okay, I will do that. I will email it to you upon the completion of our interview.
Sweet. All right, so the message I'm getting from you is quality and an authentic, like, meaning put into the pedal, rather than producing a varied scope and hoping something sticks. Like, you're looking for something that is meaningful in what you do.
We're trying to. I won't say we're always effective, but that's the intention. That's the intention of what we do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mason. It was enjoyable listening to you talk passionately about what you do, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for considering me and making us the maiden voyage here for the new podcast endeavor.
Thank you. Yeah. Cool. We're still rolling, so I can get some info from you. But yeah, if you could just email me like that selfie, and then maybe like links that I could put in the description of where people can find you.
Sure.
Your website, your channel, especially, so people will be able to get to see a huge range of what you do just based on this one interview. And like the surf guys, especially, like, there's this one guy, Jim Abrahams, who will buy every pedal he sees just to test it out. And now I'm gonna want to geek out over your stuff. 90% of what you said is like this. There is, for me, I know there are people who are very interested in what you're doing, especially this guy, Brian Falcone. He triceratones, and it actually wired our entire control room at the television studio where I worked. He set the whole control room up, and he like builds amps and guitars and pedals and stuff like that. and he's gonna really enjoy this. So don't be surprised if he reaches out to you and wants to chat with you a little bit. But I'll mention you to him, and he's probably already a subscriber of your channel
Okay.
because he builds his own stuff. It's pretty wild.
Okay. Great.
But for saying yes, I mean, I can't do anything but just thank you for saying yes.
Sure. I know. I want to try to make sure that when I was trying to start out and do this stuff, I felt like some people are helpful to me, and I try to do the same, for everybody else. So try to, if as long as it can work with my schedule, I'll make it work. So I'm happy to do it.